Hi, Teri Robnett here again. And there's been a lot of stories in the media recently about how tourists to Colorado are ending up in the ER for over-consuming cannabis. You know, we heard about Maureen Dowd and we've heard about other tourists, and now there's been a study that came out that showed that for residents that we've pretty much plateaued, that you know, that emergency room visits for marijuana are not increasing, but that they are for visitors. And, you know, there's all sorts of upheaval and consternation and concern about why is this happening? Well, I think there's a few reasons for it. I think number one is that, you know, when people come to Colorado, they have difficulty anyway if they're not used to the altitude. So, you know, they're not drinking enough water, and they get dehydrated, and other effects from altitude is that alcohol has a stronger effect, nicotine has a stronger effect, and cannabis has a stronger effect, simply because the atmosphere is thinner and, you know, you're just not used to the altitude. So I think some tourists are having difficulty because of the altitude. And then I think also that when tourists come to Colorado and they buy marijuana, we don't have any place for them to go and consume it. So we typically send them back to their hotel room or wherever by themselves with no support, and leave them to their own devices. And then when they get uncomfortable, if they've overconsumed, what are they supposed to do? Well, you know, the tourism industry put a self-imposed moratorium on even speaking about marijuana for a couple of years. So there's no educational materials in our hotels or anything like that. The staff hasn't been trained or anything about what to do or how to talk to people if they've overconsumed cannabis. So there's no support for these tourists. So what are they supposed to do? Well, they go to if they think they're dying from overconsuming, they go to the emergency room. And then I think something else that we really need to consider is that tourists are tourists. Typically, when people go on vacation, they engage in behaviors or activities that they typically wouldn't at home. For example, they might drink an extra margarita or two, or they might stay out in the sun a little longer, or they might walk a little farther, hike a little farther, you know, ski an extra few runs, whatever. They're tourists. And to expect them to be reasonable and mindful and conscientious about their consumption is just crazy. So I think that, you know, rather than freaking out and talking about how Colorado is poisoning, you know, tourists or all of this other garbage, we need to realize that tourists are tourists, and we need to provide support for them. Clubs, social clubs would be a great start so that then tourists have some place to go where they have a community, where they can be around people that are used to consuming cannabis, and then if they run into difficulties, these people can talk them through it, usually by just reminding them that no, you're not going to die, you're going to be fine. So, you know, let's get some social clubs, let's get some educational materials into the hotels and the restaurants and the ski resorts, and take care of our tourists and quit trying to demonize cannabis, because we have failed in our outreach and education and taking care of the visitors here to Colorado.